The Monaco Grand Prix, Formula One's leg of the Triple Crown of motorsport and the most prestigious single race you could win in the series. But that's all changed. Now the meme of the F1 season, fighting to stay on the calendar, Monaco just isn't what it used to be. Cars that are too big, a track that's too small, and an audience losing patience. Monaco's time in F1 is a ticking time bomb unless there's some changes made soon. The only real entertaining races in Monaco over the past couple of years have had to do with weather conditions like in 2022, or big errors on the pit wall like in 2016 for Daniel Ricciardo. For what seems to be one of the most debated things in the F1 world, the FIA are feeling the pressure. They've tried different rules and regulations in Monaco to try and save it, but if it wasn't for the history it holds, Monaco would be long gone. Fans and drivers have suggested their own fixes to the issues, like using F2 cars and making the tracks wider, but for the reason that teams work so hard to develop their car, and the track being unable to magically grow through buildings, no one really knows how to approach the matter. Others have suggested that they use the Lego F1 cars from Miami to race around Monaco, but with how fragile Lance Stroll makes an F1 car look, I don't think we can trust him with the Legos. To be honest, most people are just fed up and want to sack the race entirely, but let me tell you, the idiot running a 90 subscriber YouTube channel has got the secret formula. So I've got a couple of solutions on how I'd fix Monaco, some being realistic and others I could genuinely never see the FIA even batting an eye at it, but I think they'd all make the race more entertaining. So the first thing I think is that we could tweak some of the corners. Obviously, we can't just make the track wider because the track is made up of actual streets, but by utilizing the runoff areas that are already there and moving the curbs around a little bit, we can at least make overtaking possible. Now, this isn't going to be an automatic fix because that would be very difficult, but introducing corners where overtakes are at least possible without taking you out of the race is necessary. Other tracks like Canada, Imola, and Suzuka are beloved on the F1 calendar, but they each only have one or two areas where you can really pass on. So that's what we're going to be going for. The first area for improvement will come at turn 1, Saint Devat. Turn 1 has this huge area that's deemed off track and creates quite a weird 90-degree turn, which is odd for the end of the pit straight. Now, the main reason for this is going into a tight area like Beau Rivage with so much speed is dangerous, but I think we can still limit the speed while giving an overtaking opportunity. By pushing the inner white line a little bit further out and making it more shallow, we can get much more of a flush corner that would be wide enough for two cars to go wheel to wheel in. And it would at least give chance at an overtake for cars. Realistically, the change would probably not be as drastic as I'm saying to make it, and it would probably look more like this, but it would still help nonetheless. The second corner we could change is the all-famous Nouvelle Chicane. Notably, this is the only place we saw an overtake in the Monaco GP this year by Lance Stroll, but that doesn't make it good. Realistically, the only way to overtake here is to get on the inside coming out of the tunnel and making it so the car you're trying to overtake can yield or go off the track, so it's not really an overtake. Once again, the purpose of this chicane is to slow down cars before entering the swimming pool section, so completely eliminating the chicane is out of the question. So we do have to find a compromise. We can't extend the track to the left because of the water, and can't go right either because of the buildings, so we'd have to attack this runoff area. Sticking with the idea of a chicane, I think a smaller one similar to the chicanes in Canada or Imola would be the answer. It would still slow down cars enough before going to the swimming pool area, but it would be a much better opportunity to overtake than what's currently there. Once again, not a perfect place to overtake, but better than what we currently have. Also, the area being used by the chicane now that wouldn't be used anymore would be a great place to put a grandstand. The last corner that could really be utilized better is the combination of Rascasse and Anthony Nose. Rascasse has a little dip out before coming in to make the corner, and Anthony Nose has pretty much the same thing before entering this pit straight, and it really kills the flow of the final sector. Now, there's only one good way to go about this, and it lies in changing Anthony Nose. Rascasse has this area where two cars can enter, but no one can really exit, and the other would end up in this wall on the left. The real option would be to widen the outside of the exit to make it more flush with the pit straight. By eliminating this little bump area, two cars would be able to go side by side before the corner, and an overtake could get done without one car ending up out of the race, because there is enough space to yield. Once again, not perfect, but I'm working with what I got. These corner changes can make a big difference, but if the FIA didn't want to go in that direction and go through that hassle, there still are other options, one of them being focusing on qualifying. Now, everyone knows that when Monaco time rolls around, Saturday is where the real show is. Nail-biting lap times, constant red flags, and ultimately what decides most of the race. Now, because this is what's already happening, why not embrace it? Continuing to have a time session like the current qualifying format is an option, where points are awarded just like in a race, or a different format could be introduced. The first format that comes to mind is the Formula E duels. Having two cars on track going head to head in a bracket style elimination can be really entertaining and create some great storylines. Imagine a McLaren 1v1, a Lewis versus Max head to head, or even something like a Lawson versus Sonoda head to head. Although it could be cool, most people would be against it simply just because it goes away from the norm like a lot. But I still think that could be fun. It would spice up the weekend, and the only real shortcoming is that Sunday would be empty, but maybe it could work in a way that there's an extra practice, or that Saturday has a single time session to decide seeding in the bracket, and Sunday has the duels. If not, there just wouldn't be a Sunday session, which would be a bit boring. Now, another way to attack Monaco is definitely a bit less realistic, but it would be great, is sprinklers. Other tracks like Paul Ricard have sprinklers and can simulate rain pretty well, and this could be cool to see in Monaco. But the big hiccup is that Monaco is a street circuit and not an official racetrack. That being said, it's less likely to happen, but still possible. If you've never seen it before, Japan has these little sprinklers in the roads that are used to melt snow. But if the design were to be changed a bit and optimized, they could be used to wet the surface of the track. It would be enough to where drivers are on inters, and it would allow for better races, as we see in Monaco can be very entertaining and fast in rain. The design of these sprinklers are also sleek, so they wouldn't get in the way, and we wouldn't really have to worry about any drain cover situations like we had in Vegas. I think it's a good idea, but I could just never see the FIA falling through with it because of the headache it would cause. Finally, the most realistic option, and the one I've actually gone with, stems from what the FIA tried this year. In 2025, we had the rule that each car was required to pit twice during the race, and while that was a good idea at the surface, come race time, there were just too many team games being played. Holding up cars to allow teammates to get free pit stops was making it feel like there was no racing going on at all, and it was purely just a strategy game. It feels like it could have been simulated in the F1 manager game, but that's besides the point. Because the tires weren't actually being pushed and you could just drive the speed limit and no one would still be able to pass you, there was no actual need to pit, and one set of tires could get you to the end very easily. So pitting was just there to satisfy the requirement. The thing that could fix this would be a minimum lap requirement on each set of tires, with the exception of like a red flag or something like that. So you can't just come in two laps in a row to satisfy the requirement. This is the most likely of my options to actually happen, but who knows? Because out of all of them, it really has the most gaps, and I'm sure teams would still find a way to exploit the rules again. To be quite honest, we probably won't see any changes to Monaco's race and just damage its reputation further. So, unless next year's cars somehow make it entertaining, Monaco might be gone for the calendar sooner than we think.